to join us for our first virtual nutrition class. It's a really exciting thing for us tonight. So you guys all know me. I'm Emily. I really appreciate your time. I just want to make sure that you also know Rhonda. She is going to be doing a little bit of the presenting tonight. Rhonda's been working with me at a gym for probably 5 years. She helps me with some of the behind the scenes stuff. She helps me with the diet doc. So last year when she came to me and said that she wanted to become a health coach, I was so excited because I know she's going to be so great. She's been working on her health and wellness for over a decade and has really made huge progress and has learned so much about herself and about health, and I think she's going to be able to help us all so much with this. So Rhonda, if you'd like to say hi, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Em. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for doing this with me. I appreciate it. And thanks for your support with my health coaching. It is fun. I'm having a lot of fun. It seems to be a great combination between, like you said, what I've been learning about for my own health, and it really ties in what I used to do before I had children, and that was teach science. So it really is a great combination. I'm excited to be here and help the ladies at the gym.
Well, I'm super happy to have you. Okay, so tonight is the first nutrition class for the No Gain campaign. So we are trying not to gain weight over the holidays. It's our biggest intention. And so tonight we're going to talk about how to do that. And we're going to focus on food. We're going to focus on the sweet treats and the carbs and that kind of thing. Next month, we already have another one scheduled where we're going to talk more about emotions and sleep and relaxing and taking care of yourself and how those relate to not gaining weight. But tonight, like I said, we're specifically going to talk about sugar and carbs. I think what really is what I want you to learn tonight is that, when you eat, things happen in your body. And I want you to learn how your body processes all the carbs that you're eating and all the food that you're eating in general. And what happens when you eat too much at one time. I also want you to understand that your body can really only handle a certain amount of food at once without storing it and without storing it as fat. So you can set yourself up for success around the holiday foods, around all the stuff that you have to do this time of year so that you can keep your intention not to gain weight. So we're going to talk about what's happening in your body when you eat.
Yeah, thanks. And the key for me really is knowledge, because I think knowledge is power. And I know the more I know, the better I do. And so like Emily mentioned, we're talking about all the sweet treats that are around this time of year, because I don't have to tell you, food is everywhere. So we're not just talking about just candy, but we're talking about breads and then all the pumpkin things that are around this time of year with your lattes and pumpkin muffins and pancakes. And then, we go right on into all the Thanksgiving treats. And then, of course, with Christmas coming up with those treats as well. So we really want you to enjoy these things, but know how to do it. Because I know, like I said, food is everywhere. I remember when Emily and I were first starting to put this together, I just asked my husband, I was like, what's the hardest part for you to not gain weight over the holidays? And without thinking, he said, food at work. And so, yeah, we got to thinking that really, it becomes kind of an automatic thing. Work is a place to take the extra food, but it's also a place where you're given gifts, and food is an easy gift to give. And so people have it everywhere, and then having it at work makes it kind of doubly hard to avoid it. So we want to teach you how not to have to white knuckle it through that, but to use it, the knowledge that we're going to give you tonight, to do it successfully and still get to your goals.
I know for me that the knowledge was very, very powerful, and it, it helped me change my diet or mindset between I ate one cookie, so I blew the whole day and I had to eat the rest of the 12 cookies that were sitting on the sheet. But once I understood what was actually happening in my body when I ate that one cookie versus what happened when I ate all 12 cookies, it made me be able to think through what I was doing and understand what was happening in my body when I ate. So when you eat carbs, and like Rhonda said, they're bread, pasta, pretzels, Chex Mix, cereal, those savory carbs also digest as sugar in your body. So it's not just the sweet treats and the candy and the cookies and the pies and all of that, but it's also those savory things. So you have to think about, what's filling your whole plate for the whole entire day. So when you eat too many carbs at once, we can even start with breakfast. If you start your day out with a bowl of cereal, an apple, some orange juice, maybe put some sugar in your coffee, maybe even have a granola bar and a yogurt. Those are all things that are carbs, and they digest as sugar in your body. And carbs digest really, really quickly, especially the processed carbs and the sweet carbs and the white bread. It digests really quickly. So as it's digesting, your body's turning it into sugar and it's going right into your bloodstream. So when you eat, all of those carbs at once, that's a lot for your body. It's multiple servings. So it's a lot of sugar. So your blood sugar is going to go up pretty quickly. And as your blood sugar starts to rise, your body secretes insulin, which is the hormone that says to your cells, let's open up and let's use that sugar. So sugar is your cell's energy source. It's your brain's preferred energy source, but it's also for your muscles. It's also for your organs and for all of your lean tissues. So they're going to use that sugar. But the thing is with those lean tissues, they only take what they need. So if you have an excess of sugar in your blood, it needs to go somewhere. So your muscles are going to take what they need, your other tissues, just what they need to function. The unfortunate thing is that your fat cells will take the rest. So your fat cells are going to suck all this sugar in, turn it into fat, and store it for later. As they do that, your blood sugar comes down just as rapidly as it went up. So you end up with this low blood sugar situation, and you kind of feel, at 10 o'clock when you're like, oh, that 10 o'clock slump, that 3 o'clock in the afternoon sort of like, wow, I have no energy. I need to go and get something to eat to help me get through the rest of the day. Well, that's because you have such low blood sugar. You're at a hormonal position, you're at a blood sugar position where biology takes over and it says, hey, survival, you need to eat. We got to get your blood sugar back up. So then you get hungry, you have some cravings, you go and think, okay, I'm going to get coffee. You walk by the coffee place and there's the cookies or the muffins, the sweets or the sweetened coffees that you are going to drink. And you have, again, another multiple servings of carbs, which again is going to spike your blood sugar. And then we're back at the beginning and we have this cycle and it just keeps happening over and over and over. And it's kind of like a roller coaster for your body. It's pretty exhausting. So there's a reason, these foods, they taste so good and you don't want to stop eating them because they taste so good. But also we're being sabotaged by the food industry because they're engineering these foods with the perfect ratio of sugar and fat and salt so that, like the Lay's bag says, you really can't eat just one and you want to just keep eating. And so your physiology, your body, not just your hunger, but other things are happening in your body that make you want to keep eating.
Yeah, and in addition to that, if that's not bad enough about what sugar does to your body, our bodies, it also has a really profound effect on our brains. So I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to hit some of the highlights about some of the hormones that affect our brains when we're eating sugar. And remember, we're saying the word sugar, but we're not just talking about table sugar. We're also talking about the treats and the drinks and the beverages. And, again, also the breads and the pastas. And those things all add up to have this similar effect. One of the first hormones that gets affected when you eat sweet and your tongue tastes sugar and sweet is dopamine is released. And dopamine goes right to the pleasure center in your brain. And it lights it up. And so you probably have heard recently, I think more so than ever, is that sugar is as addictive as cocaine. And because now we have the research to back that up. Now we have the technology to show what's happening in the brain. And you can see this picture. It shows how the brain lights up with sugar and how it lights up with cocaine. So that's really solid evidence of what's going on in our brains. And the thing with the pleasure center and dopamine receptors there is they get desensitized over time. And so after about 3 weeks of having sugar at a certain amount, in order to get the same pleasure from that sugar, you're going to need to start eating more. Just like you've probably heard the tolerance that people can develop to drugs. Well, the same thing happens to sugar because the dopamine receptors are the same. So that's one of the hormones that gets affected by excess sugar and having sugar consistently. Another one I want to talk about briefly is cortisol, in that cortisol is produced with stress. And we need cortisol. We need it to live, but we need it in the right amounts because it provides a very important function for us. It gets us ready to either fight or flight, fight or flee. So that's, you probably heard of that hormone before. But with stress, our bodies don't know if we're getting ready to fight or if we're just like mad at our coworkers or our kids are bugging us. You know, stress is stress, and cortisol gets released. And it does some things. Well, first of all, at the top, you can see there, it increases blood sugar. So that's just going to make the stuff that Emily just talked about even worse. Okay, so we're going to continue this blood sugar deregulation. Because we're really not fighting a fight necessarily, we're just under stress. But the other things that I want to talk about a little more specifically is over there to the left on this picture. Well, first of all, it suppresses our immune system. So that's something to think about as we're in cold and flu season now. But the big one, as far as sugar goes, is it decreases our production of serotonin. So serotonin is a neurotransmitter that our brains and our bodies use to relax. It's kind of like our body's natural chill pill. And we need that because obviously if you were going to fight or flee and you're making cortisol, your body's going to say, well, I don't want to chill out. I need to be on heightened alert. So it's a natural response to have less serotonin. But that's something to consider as we're under a lot of stress as the holidays are getting here, you know, our Christmas lists, things to wrap, places to go. So naturally we're producing less serotonin. Now the key with serotonin is, and I've read several numbers here, but between 75 and 90% of it is made in our guts. So if we're consuming diets that are high in sugar, what that's going to do is it's going to throw off the balance of the bacteria in your gut. You've probably heard a lot lately about the microbiome in our guts. Well, there's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria in there, and there needs to be, along with some yeast. The thing with sugar is it feeds the bacteria that aren't quite as helpful, and it also feeds the yeast. So they love sugar. So the more you give them, the happier they are. And the better bacteria, the ones that are responsible for the serotonins and the other neurotransmitters, like things like leafy greens and vegetables. So now you've got a double whammy with the serotonin. You've got a decrease in production because you're under stress, and you could have a decrease in production because your gut is not in balance. And so if you're experiencing things like intestinal problems, maybe even bloating or gas, it could be an indication that maybe you don't have a good balance in your gut. So then you've got that result of eating too much sugar. So the bottom line here is, there's a lot of details I know, is willpower alone is usually not enough to get you through a diet that's high in sugar because of all these other effects.
So when we are talking about this, what I want you to get from this is the amount of sugar or starchy carbs that you can eat at one time that doesn't cause that blood sugar spike, that doesn't cause that extra release of insulin, and that doesn't, cause the massive cravings afterwards. And for women, of course, this is, going to kind of be different for everybody, but around 25 to 30 grams of starchy carbs is all your body can handle at one time without storing it as fat. So, if you want to kind of think about this every 2 to 4 hours, so each mealtime, you want to have a serving of starchy carbs. Anything above that, your body is going to have to store somewhere. It just can't use it in that amount of time. If you're super active, or if you just worked out, or if you have a lot of muscle, this number can go up a little bit. But, for the most part, if we consistently stay at that 25 to 30 grams of carbs per meal each day, we're going to be in a really good place. So what does that amount look like? The first thing is rice or pasta. So about a half cup serving of rice, about a half cup serving of pasta is your 25 to 30 grams of carbs. I always look at this rice and I think about the amount of rice that they give you at the Chinese restaurant, and then they put all the rest of the stuff on top of it. Or the pasta, and I think about the plate of pasta that comes out, and then they put the meatballs on top of it. So it's not really, eating that many carbs in rice or pasta is setting you up for cravings later. It's setting you up for that blood sugar spike and then that low. So you really want to think about, the way that you're creating your meals and not have them revolve around the plate of pasta. The next one, I love this slide. It shows that this many fruits and vegetables is your 25 to 30 grams of carbs. You get to eat a lot of food, and you get fiber and vitamins and minerals and nutrition from these foods, or you can have a hamburger bun. So it's the amount of food you get to eat if you're eating fruits and vegetables is so much more volume for the amount that you would get if you wanted to eat bread for the 25 grams of carbs. The next one, we're kind of sabotaged by portion sizes today. So we walk into a bagel store 20 years ago and we got a bagel that was the appropriate size, the amount of carbs that we needed. We could eat it, we could head off onto the day and feel good. Today we walk into the bagel store and just the plain whole wheat bagel that's seemingly healthy, that we think, oh, I'm getting a whole wheat bagel that's healthy, that's what I'm having for breakfast, has 70 or 75 grams of carbs. Well, that's 3 servings of carbs right there. You think you're being healthy, but you're actually setting yourself up for that low blood sugar, the blood sugar spike, and then the low blood sugar a couple hours later, where you're hungry and you have cravings. The next one, a Subway cookie, is about 29 grams of carbs, I think, if you look at the nutrition facts. So that's a normal size cookie, like something that I would make at home. That's the size of cookies I make. But again, when you walk into the store and you see the Panera cookie that's 2 or 3 times that big and has almost 70 grams of carbs, that's a lot. And that's a lot to eat after you already had, lunch that potentially had carbs in it as well. Speaking of serving sizes, so think about, fruit. And yes, fruit has more vitamins and minerals and fiber and good things in it. So it's totally different than eating, Skittles for your 25 to 30 grams of carbs. But serving sizes on fruit matter too, because fruit is considered a carbohydrate. So it's going to digest as sugar in your body as well. So thinking about the serving size as about a tennis ball. An orange can be about the size of a tennis ball instead of the gigantic ones that we sometimes see in the store today. Things that you're drinking matter too. So let's talk about Coke. A can of Coke is too many carbs for 1 serving. So you only get to have 2/3 of that can of Coke. And this is liquid sugar. So this is digested even faster. In fact, it's not really even digested. It goes straight into your stomach, right into your bloodstream, spikes your blood sugar. So it's liquid sugar, liquid candy that your body doesn't realize, it's eating anything. And the last one, our pumpkin spice latte, that, it's the holidays, it's pumpkin spice latte time. So we all have to go and have one. But this one, it's non-fat and it has no whipped cream and it has 52 grams of carbs. Which is a lot. That's like 2 Snickers bars. That's something to think about. It's one thing to have the pumpkin spice latte one time right now because it's fall and it tastes so wonderful, but it's a whole nother to have it every single day on your way to work, especially if you want to keep your intention of not gaining weight. Eating what your body can use at one time and not going over consistently is where you will be able to reach that goal.
Yeah. And knowing this information helps so much when I'm planning out my treats and things, and I'm planning out for my events for the holidays, because I used to have the idea that, my body is like a car. If gas tank is on empty or on full. And therefore, if I had a party or something, or a Thanksgiving Day, for example, and I knew I was going to eat more that day, I would starve myself all day and choose not to eat until I got to the event or the meal. Well, it doesn't work that way. Because of what Emily just explained, our bodies can only use so much at one time, and anything more than that, they're going to store. And chances are I'm going to eat again before I'm going to go through all those stored energy as well. So we've got to switch the idea that our bodies are gas tanks, our stomachs are gas tanks, and set ourselves up for success, knowing how much our bodies can use at one time and not try and save those calories.
So let's talk about how to do that. And it's going to take planning ahead. It's going to take prepping and figuring out, what your week looks like. So we're going to talk about meal planning and prep. We have a worksheet that we have designed for you guys. We're going to post it in the chat box as a link tonight at the end of this. We're also going to put it in the Facebook group, and it'll be out on the front desk tomorrow morning at the gym, so you can pick them up when you get to the gym. But let's start with planning ahead. Like Rhonda said, think about your whole week. Look at what you have look at what you have to do all week long. So if you're thinking, okay, Tuesday night, we have 6 activities, we got to take the kids here, here, and here. I'm not going to be able to cook, so I'm going to have to eat out. We have something happening on Saturday, and, I'm trying to stay on track. I'm trying to, make sure that the whole week I can end up at the end of the week the same weight or a little bit less for my no gain campaign. So I gotta think about what I'm gonna do and plan ahead and figure this out. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be 100%. Your body can handle that little bit of extra here and there. So we're gonna talk about the 90-10 rule here in a minute, but that means, 90% of the time we need to be on track. 10% of the time we can splurge a little bit. We can have a little bit extra and our bodies will be okay, and we won't gain weight after those couple extras. But if you think about it, 10% of the time, if we eat 4 times a day times 7 days a week, that's 28 meals. 2.8 meals could be a little bit over without us gaining. So you really have to think about that and think, okay, well, Tuesday night I'm not going to waste my meal or my little extras, because I really want to save it for Saturday. And there might be something that comes up, throughout the week. So we're going to Chipotle on Tuesday night. I know exactly what I can order. I can get something healthy. It's the right amount for my body, and I know what to do. So it's a no-brainer. I don't even have to think about it. I order my meal. We eat it. I feel good afterwards, and we're done with Tuesday. Then on Saturday, when Saturday comes around, I know that I've been good, consistent throughout the week, and I can eat that little bit of extra. But if I don't plan ahead, and I think, oh, Tuesday we're eating out, let's go get Mexican, and I eat too many chips and too much tacos and that kind of thing, by Saturday, I'm already going to have used my 10%, and I'm still going to want to eat those extras, so I'll end up gaining by the end of the week, which is not what I want. Okay, so look at the whole week ahead of time and plan out what you're going to do, but then also look at your meals, one meal at a time. So we'll start with breakfast. How can we set ourselves up for success? Protein is something we haven't talked about yet, protein and fats. So those help you stay satisfied. If you eat protein along with your carbs, protein digests really, really slowly. So it's going to slow the digestion of those carbs. You're not going to have that same blood sugar spike that you would if you ate the carbs by themselves. I just heard a really interesting podcast that was studying elementary students, and the first group of elementary students got muffins for breakfast. The second group got muffins and nuts, and the third group got nuts for breakfast, and that's all they had. And then they just followed these children through the day and monitored their food choices. They gave them no rules. There was nothing, that they had to do. They just watched what they ate. The kids who ate just nuts ate much more moderate portions and chose healthier foods for the day. They didn't have any rules, but they just naturally picked healthier foods. The kids that ate just muffins had far more food and a lot less healthier, sugary, more processed choices in their, in the rest of their diet for the day. The kids who had the muffins and nuts was sort of in between. They made better choices and didn't eat quite as much, but they still weren't, quite as good as the ones who just had the nuts for breakfast. So I think that's a really good, kind of thing to think about, is setting yourself up for success. What you eat in your first meal is naturally going to help you make better choices throughout the day, or it's going to sort of cause you to make the poorer, more sugary, more starchy carb choices throughout the day. Okay, so breakfast, what can we have? Egg muffins. I've talked about them a lot. You can cook them ahead of time, so you're not having to cook eggs in the morning if you don't have time. You can put vegetables in there with them, which is great because we talked about vitamins, minerals, and vegetables and volume. And you can also add, an apple to that, or an English muffin, or something along that line, so you have some carbs with it. Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt is great, has more protein in it than just a regular like Yoplait yogurt. I add a little bit of protein powder to it and mix it up so it has a little bit of flavor. Throw some berries on top, and that's a great breakfast that's going to keep you satisfied for a long time. It's going to keep your blood sugar stable throughout the day, which is really what we want. You see a protein shake and an apple, that's a very easy choice. And then the end one, another egg choice, and I think that one's baked in ham, which looks delicious, but that's an easy thing that you could just put on a toasted English muffin, and then you're ready to go. But you want to kind of keep it even, and that's the next one, balancing out your meals. you want to have about the same amount of protein as you have carbs. So if you're having 25 to 30 grams of carbs, have 25 to 30 grams of protein in that meal. Adding vegetables to your meals is awesome. You know, like we talked about in that slide where you got to see so much food. Vegetables are full of vitamins, minerals, they're full of fiber, they're full of water. So you get to eat so much more for very few calories, which is a really great thing. And then have some healthy fats. You know, eggs have fat. Your meat that you're eating probably has a little bit of fat. So you don't have to add a lot of fat to your meals, but you need to have a little bit of fat along with your meals as well to stay healthy and to be satisfied. Mm-hmm. And then you get your portion of starchy carbs. And this one goes right along with the next slide. Pick the starchy carb that's the most important to you. You know, I am the queen of having a grilled chicken salad with no dressing and no cheese and just vegetable toppings, because I know back at grandma's house we're having a piece of her pie, and I will save my carbs and save my fat for that piece of pie, because that's the most important thing. You know, that's wonderful to me. If bread is important to you, or if that sweet potato is your favorite thing, or if you want to have pasta, make that be your starchy carb choice for the meal and enjoy the heck out of it. And then you can move on. You're having your protein, you're having your vegetables along with it. So that way you're satisfied. You feel like you've eaten, and you know, you get that treat, that starchy carb that's the most important to you. The next one, again, talking about the importance of protein. If you have protein with you all the time, that's super. Have a scoop of protein in your purse or in your bag with you. If you're hungry, shake it up in a bottle of water, and it takes the edge off. You can get another hour or two without having to eat something that maybe isn't the best choice. A pack of tuna, I keep a pack of tuna in my bag with me all the time. And it has saved the day. You know, you can always find some carbs. You can always find even an apple or a banana, but you know, there's always carbs around. There's not necessarily always protein around. So you can eat your tuna and then have whatever your carb is, and you'll feel a lot more satisfied if you have protein first. And then chicken, you know, I would put a baggie of chicken in my purse and take it with me. And pull that out and either eat it or put it on my salad or whatever I'm doing, just so I know that I have protein with me, because it makes me feel so much more stable. It makes me, you know, be able to just eat what I'm supposed to eat and not have, you know, the cravings and the, you know, really having to struggle or white knuckle it, like Rhonda said at the beginning. You're just naturally, you know, it's naturally easier to eat the right things and to eat the right amounts for your body.
Yeah. And this one has been real key for me. Just to make sure I get some protein in there makes me so much more reasonable with all the other things. So this is a huge one for me, along with this last one that we're going to talk about, because I want to focus on what we can add as we're going through the holidays rather than what we should be limiting or taking away. And that really is just to focus on the colors. And you've probably heard eat the rainbow every day. That's a healthy thing to do. And maybe you think, well, that's just something mothers say to their kids. But we really have the research to back this up now. Every single color has a different phytonutrient in it that does something for us. You've probably heard of lycopene with tomatoes recently. But we know that's really good for our brain and our heart and our liver and our immune system. I want to take a minute, just a caveat here is you'll also see heart healthy things on things like spaghetti sauces, which is not necessarily wrong, but again, we got to consider the sugar that could be involved with something like that. So I listen to a lot of Dr. Mark Hyman, and he talks about the fact if a label has a health claim on it, it's probably not the best food that you could eat. So just keep that in mind when I'm talking through these colors. I'm talking about nature's colors, you know, the ones you can find in the actual plant or fruit or vegetable itself. So got the reds, like probably heard of beta carotenes, always good for your eyes. You can eat carrots for your eyes, yes, and it's true. The yellows go right along with that. These are a little more difficult for me to find because most people think, well, I'm going to have a banana, right? Well, yes, if you're eating the skin of the peel of the banana, but otherwise a banana's a white color, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. But things like yellow peppers, we can find those pretty readily right now. Yellow apples, if you're eating the skin, and squashes, that's an easy yellow. So greens are, I think, easier with your leafy greens and zucchinis and those kinds of things. But again, heart and brain. And with the purples, these are actually purple, blue, and black fall into this category. So it would include things like black olives. would be good for your these areas. So don't forget about that color as well, even like eggplant and things like that. And notice how many areas the brain is mentioned. When I was talking earlier about the impacts of sugar on the brain, if you've got some depression or some anxiety, maybe your diet needs to be more colorful. That could really help. And the last color here I want to mention is back to the banana. When I was talking about that, that would be considered a white food. And the category that's most people don't think about is whites, tans, and browns. But again, they have a big impact on our immune system, going back to the fact that it's cold and flu season. And think about things like cauliflower would be a white vegetable, onions, garlic, and even teas with the brown color that's in teas. So think about the things that you can add into your diet and keep it colorful from nature is really going to support all of the things that Emily and I are talking about tonight. So very important for your health.
And you're right. It is always, always easier to think I'm going to add something in versus you always have to take something out of your diet.
Yeah.
It definitely helps with that, not having the deprivation mindset.
Yeah.
You think,
Exactly.
I can't have that, I can't have that. Think about what you can have and what you do like and what you can add in that's really healthy for your body. Okay, so next we're going to talk about what to do when we're at the party to survive, to kind of stay on track, to keep it within our numbers. You have that 10% day that you can, or meal that you can kind of splurge a little bit, but this isn't one of those. We're going to try to stay on track during this holiday party. So how are we going to do that? Again, we're going to put the link in the chat box, and there'll be copies for you guys at the gym and in the Facebook group, so you can see them then. But let's talk about this a little bit more. So we talked about the 90-10 rule a little bit, but really, like I said, perfection is not what we need to stay on track, to reach our goals, to not gain weight over the holidays. But 2.8 meals comes really quickly, especially if there's candy and cookies and you're having little snacks throughout the day, each day, and those kinds of things. So really, focus on having a good meal, choosing the one little treat that you want, and if you're, flipping that out for your sweet potato or whatever you're doing, but pay attention to all of those things. The little bites, they do end up adding up. So think about that and think, okay, this is my 90% time. I'm going to stay on track for this party so that the next one I can have, something that I really want. Mm-hmm. So the first tip on staying on track is not going to the party hungry. I always have a bridge the gap meal. I always eat something in the afternoon that I have planned that's protein and has some carbs in it. So it gets me through. It's like a real meal, because going from lunch to dinner is way too long for me. I get too hungry. When you get too hungry, you eat too much. It's what happens. We eat way too much. We eat too fast. We don't even think about what we're doing. So don't go to the party hungry. And then this time of year, think about why we're having these parties. Because we want to see our friends, we want to see our family. It's more social. It's more, talking and catching up and being able to spend time with someone versus just the food. So get to the party, talk to your friends, mingle when you arrive. And my best tip is to grab a water bottle and put it in your hand and keep that water bottle in your hand for the rest of the night. When you have something in your hand, that you can just drink, you're able to participate. It doesn't feel so weird to be standing there without something, especially if other people are drinking or eating. You want to be able to put something in your mouth. You want to be able to participate too. And a bottle of water is perfect for that. So get that bottle of water right when you walk in the door. And then be aware of your holiday cocktails and drinks. So let's talk about just the holiday drinks. We've talked about the pumpkin spice latte, of course, but a mocha frappuccino or hot chocolate or eggnog, and those kinds of things are full of calories, and they're usually full of fat as well. So when you drink those drinks, you're drinking like a liquid candy bar. You're really drinking maybe 2 liquid candy bars or a liquid piece of cheesecake. Which is totally different than eating those 2 candy bars or eating that cheesecake. If you eat a dessert that's wonderful and you have to chew it and you taste it and it goes down and it's in your stomach has to work on it, has to digest it, and it understands that those are calories that it has to do something with. So it's going to say, wow, she ate a lot of calories. I'm going to not be hungry for a while. Whereas if you drink that sugar, your stomach doesn't have to do the same things to it. So it can go straight from your stomach to your bloodstream, spike your blood sugar, then you have the low, then you have cravings. So it's a totally different thing than if you're eating the same amount of calories. So keep that in mind. And then the cocktails, they can be sugary too, you know, with the sugary mixers that are going in them. But also when you drink, your inhibitions are lowered. You know, you think, oh, it's okay, I'll have a few more cheese and crackers, or you don't remember what you ate and you drink another thing. So just be aware of what you're drinking. You know, for me, I don't drink very much, but if I was going to a party and I wanted to have a drink, I would get half a glass of wine, white wine probably, and then put club soda on top and make a white wine spritzer. I mean, you guys know how thirsty I am. So if I have wine and that's what I'm using to quench my thirst, I am going to have multiple glasses of wine down very quickly because I drink a lot of liquids, and then I'll be drunk. And that's not, you know, that's not my intention. So if I water down that wine and have club soda in it, I'm participating. I'm also hydrating myself because it's half water. And I feel like, you know, this is a good thing, and it's not going to be something I'm just getting drunk off of very quickly. Then I would go back and forth between my wine spritzer and a glass of club soda, and I might squeeze a lime in there or something, so it's like fun and a party drink. Another option would be like a shot of vodka and then do the club soda on top of that, squeeze a lemon or lime in there, and you are really watering down the alcohol, which allows you to be able to have more volume again with not quite as much sugar, because alcohol digests as sugar in your body as well. The next thing, it's time for food. Let's take a look at the food table before we decide what to eat. Instead of just taking our plate and filling it, let's look and see what looks the best. You know, what do you really want to try? I'm not going to eat anything if it's not the best thing. You know, I'm not going to just waste my calories because it's there. So choose the things that look the best that you really want to try. But first, fill up your plate with vegetables. Okay, half your plate gets filled with vegetables. The vegetables, like Rhonda talked about, like we've talked about before, full of vitamins and minerals. But also, as you have to chew those vegetables up, that's sending a signal to your brain that's saying, okay, she's eating this. You know, we're getting food. You know, it takes time for your brain to register that you've eaten enough. So it's also giving you a little bit more time. Super easy to eat. Cookie, cookie, cookie. But broccoli, you got to chew that up. And then also in your stomach, as you're eating that, as your stomach stretches and gets food in there, that's another signal to your brain that says, hey, okay, we're eating. You know, it's naturally easier to stop eating when your brain is getting these signals that's saying food's here, we're digesting, I'm satisfied. So then it's not that white knuckle thing that Rhonda talked about, like, oh, I really want to eat that cookie, but I'm not going to. I'm saying no, I'm telling myself I can't. That deprivation, it's like, oh, I'm satisfied. I don't need to eat the cookie. I don't want to eat the cookie. So eat your vegetables and eat them first, because I guarantee you're not going to go back to broccoli after you have your chocolate chip cookie. Okay, vegetables first. Eat some chicken, eat some protein. Pull the baggie out of your purse if you have to, but eat those things first, and then, you know, if it's cheesy potatoes you want, have a bite or two of cheesy potatoes, but that's your carb you're choosing. You know, choose the one that means the most to you. Pay attention to what you're eating all night is another big one, because we can get standing, you know, if there's food sitting out, if there's nuts or Chex Mix or whatever, you know, you could be just snacking on that Chex Mix, you know, on the nuts all night long and eat way more than you think, because it's mindless eating, you know, as you're doing it. If you have that water bottle in your hand that I told you to get at the beginning, you're not going to be able to do that as well, but you're also naturally going to be drinking the water versus reaching for something else to put something else in your mouth. Also, if you have that bottle of water in your hand, it's extremely hard to then fill your plate or eat off your plate because you already have something in your hand. So it just makes it more like, oh, I don't need to be eating. You know, it keeps you present. It keeps you right there. And another thing that I've heard that I thought was fantastic advice was keep the evidence of what you've eaten on your plate all night. So if you're eating chicken wings, keep the bones on there. If you're eating something with a wrapper, keep the wrappers on there. If you've had, you know, cheesy potatoes and there's like blobs of stuff on your plate, keep it on there, because we are notorious for underestimating the amount of food that we've eaten and thinking, oh, I really didn't eat that much tonight, you know, but if you look down at your plate and there's 10 chicken wing bones on there, you go, oh, I've eaten enough. Okay, I did eat tonight, you know, so you know what you've eaten, and that really does help. And then also, if you know the hostess isn't going to have anything super healthy or something that you want to eat, offer to bring a veggie tray. So that way you can snack on carrots and celery. It's going to do, you know, far less than handfuls of nuts or Chex Mix if you're just eating, you know, veggies in a healthy dip or something like that. So offer to bring something to the party. So just because, you know, there's lots of obstacles and lots of food around and lots of stuff going on, you know, this holiday season, it doesn't mean that it has to trip you up. It doesn't mean that you have to gain weight. You can for sure set yourself up for success and not, you know, end up gaining weight over the holidays.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot to think about, but it is doable. It is very doable since our intention is not to gain weight. And so, like Emily mentioned in the beginning, this is just the first of 3 of these that we're going to do. We're going to come back next month and talk about more of the emotional and mental side of it, because it all works together. You can't really take control of the eating if you're not taking control of all the other aspects of our life too. So put the date on your calendar, same time, 6:30 on the 5th of December. We'd love to see everybody back for that. So we're going to take some time for questions now if anybody has some, and then I will put the handouts in the chat box for people. We'll have those available. So
if you don't want to stay for questions, I want to thank you again for your time. We really, really appreciate you being here tonight. But if you do have questions, please feel free to stay on and either unmute yourself and talk to us, or type them in the chat box and we can read them and we can answer your question.